Welcome to this week's edition of The Brian Kelly Show, presented by TireRack.com. I'm your host, Tony Simeone, and joined as always by Dick Corbett, head coach for Notre Dame Football, Brian Kelly. Coach, this week, as opposed to the first 2 weeks, offense off to a little bit of a slower start for you guys, but the defense, I think, has made improvements every single week, just generally holding Purdue to 3 points in the first half. What'd you like from the defense in this first half?
Well, as I mentioned to you before, I think it was more about tackling. It was more about controlling the line of scrimmage. And they had a big play player in Bell, and we needed to make sure that we got him on the ground. I think we did all those things. I think from an offensive standpoint, as you mentioned, we put our defense in some tough spots, and they were able to rally out and give us an opportunity to get going later in the first quarter.
I want to talk about a specific play that we might need to start setting aside for a weekly segment. It was, what did Kyle Hamilton do this week that took your breath away? The 4th and 1 stop that he made. Just talk me through that play defensively as a whole, but specifically for him to make another play as a safety like that. Just how special is that? Yeah,
so length, speed, and diagnosing the play. All of those things have to come into play. If you don't recognize the play, if you're not 6'4", you don't get there, and certainly the burst that he showed. So just great players got to make great plays, and he certainly made one there on 4th down.
It seemed like that play was a big momentum play for you guys. Did you feel that on the sideline? Because you got great field position.
Yeah, there's no doubt, and we needed to come up with a 4th down stop. We hadn't had that big 4th down stop, and so I think that gave our defense a lot of energy, a lot of momentum, and then we were able to kind of settle some things down on the offensive side of the ball. They brought some pressures. We were trying to do some things with our protections to help out on some really good defensive ends that they had, and I think it allowed us to kind of settle down and get moving.
So it was 3-0 at that point. You get the big 4th down stop. Now on offense on 4th down, as you mentioned, the 4th and 3 connection for the touchdown to Kyron Williams. What'd you see on that play that got him free?
Yeah, so they brought a pressure which forces the ball out. Now they dropped out their nose guard and really squeezed that alley, but Jack did a great job of putting it right on Kyron. And when you're in cover 0 in that situation, which they had shown, that's why that play call was made. It was going to be an all-or-nothing situation, and he was able to make the catch, split the defense, and score a touchdown.
So that gave you guys a 7-3 lead. Defense, as we said, has been really solid, kind of held them down for the rest of the half. But specifically, I want to ask about a guy who's been a leader for you. You gave him the game ball. Hinish made a couple big plays there in the first half. You mentioned his work throughout the week leading up to the game against Purdue. Just what did you see from him throughout the week that put him in a spot to lead this defense this week?
Well, I think there's weeks where you need a leader to be vocal, and he was a vocal leader this week. He was holding others accountable. Obviously what happens in the locker room stays in the locker room, but he was a force in our locker room this week, and I think that was needed. And again, it's timely. Each week you don't need somebody to be vocal, but this was an important week for that, and I think that needed to be mentioned, and our players appreciated it.
You guys tacked on a field goal before halftime, so it was 10-3, but I'm curious, there were a couple throws in there that Jack Cohn probably normally makes, maybe an overthrow here or there. I'm just curious, what was the message at halftime in the locker room? Because it seemed like it could have been more than 10-3. Was there any discussion?
Yeah, it was a little bit of both. It was we needed some better routes being run, and the balls needed to be thrown a little better, so it wasn't necessarily on one player as much as I think cumulatively the entire offense was a little off. The passing game, the timing, the protection. So it was really about talking to the entire unit about everybody needs to get on the same page here. This isn't one guy not doing their job. So I think we had a good conversation at halftime, got everybody thinking the right way, and we're able to play much better in the second half.
It seemed like right away the offense was more in sync, because after the field goal from Purdue made it 10-6, really one of the best passing plays of the year, I think, Jack Cohn to Avery Davis, 62 yards on 3rd and 7, a really big spot for you guys. What'd you see on that play?
Yeah, so they've been playing bracket coverage, which means the safety over the top and the linebacker inside were doubling Mike Mayer. And we were going to get a one-on-one shot on the post. And it was just a matter of time. Tommy called it at the right time. We got it, and just a great throw. And then you have to run to that catch. And so Avery had to run through that catch. He did a great job. It was a big play for us.
I want to ask you about Avery Davis because to me, he's someone that, frankly, I admire the way he's gone through this program, played so many positions. How often do you use him as an example for the rest of your guys, as someone that's persevered to put himself in a spot where now he's 5 catches for 120 against Purdue?
Regularly. We use him a lot. Here's a guy that's got moved to 4 different positions, I think it is. And, now he's a captain on our football team making plays. We actually brought him up, as a standard in terms, because his preparation was outstanding last week as well. So we said, look, that's what we need from all of you. The same kind of preparation is going to give you the same kind of performance, and he's been a great model.
So it was 17-6. Purdue came down, made it 17-13. I want to highlight one other guy that might not get a lot of pub, and that's Jay Bramblett. He put a couple punts inside the 5. One gave you guys really good field position that led to a field goal and another score later. Just to have a weapon like that, to put the ball inside the 5, it just seemed like it was hard for Purdue the whole second half because of the field position. How good was he?
Yeah, we're looking at the 10-yard line as a really good punt. I think the average in the NCAA is around the 11 in those situations, and to get it at the 1 is, outstanding. So, Jay's been really big. He sometimes starts a little slow, but boy, he's not going to stay that way. He always picks it up, and he was instrumental in flipping field position and putting them in a very difficult situation, really for the most part of the second half.
So it was 2013 after field goal from Jonathan Dorr, and after one of those punts, you guys flipped the field and had it around midfield. And I mentioned earlier, Kyle Hamilton's good for one big one a game. It seems like Kyron Williams is too. He had the couple screens the last 2 weeks. The big 51-yard run, one of his best individual efforts I think we've seen since he's been on campus.
Yeah, we got a good push inside. He, kind of bounced off a couple of guys here and there, but I think what was most, impressive was the physicality at the point of attack, which, is something that we're, trying to evolve to. It's been back and forth a little bit. We've got guys in and out of the lineup. We've had injuries. So it's really nice to know that we can start to see some of that physicality later in the game, and he does a great job breaking through a couple of tackles too.
Purdue tried to make a run there at the end. They brought in the backup, Aiden O'Connell, to try to shake things up when they were driving. And again, Kyle Hamilton makes a great interception in the back of the end zone to really, I think, give you guys a sense of security there. What'd you see on that play that kind of sealed it?
Yeah, well, again, we forced Aiden out of the pocket. He bought some time for it, but we were on body. We got a deflection, and Kyle's, the free player in that situation, and he just tracks the ball so well. So anytime there's a deflection with his range and his size, he's generally going to come down with it.
You guys have seemed to improve every single week. The defense now down to 13 points in this third game. I'm just curious, when you get back into the locker room, what was the message about this week's performance? And it seemed like you were pleased with the way the team prepared specifically during the week.
Yeah, I think more than anything else is let's enjoy a victory in the manner in which we prepared for it. So let's celebrate it because, again, we've talked about this. Winning's hard, but when you prepare the right way, you really can savor this kind of victory against a Big Ten team that has some really, really fine players. And so I wanted our guys to understand that they're winning this game was because of what they did on Monday through Friday. And if we continue to do that, we'll be in pretty good shape.
You're listening to The Brian Kelly Show, presented by the experts at TireRack.com. Welcome back to The Brian Kelly Show. It's time for this week's installment of Irish Intel, presented by TireRack.com. It's now time for Irish Intel, where we go inside the play. Okay, Coach, this next play, another fourth down. This time you're on offense. We're going to see it right here. This is a man across the board for you guys. You mentioned it earlier in our breakdown. The defensive lineman's going to drop out. Just tell me what your offense is looking here to diagnose on this play.
Yeah, so it's cover zero. You can see there's no deep safety, so we call that cover zero. And Jack really knows now he's got to go to the blitz beater. In other words, where can I get the ball out quickest, because they're going to bring more than we can pick up. And the blitz beater here is Kyron. Now, they also drop out the nose, which creates a little bit of a tight window in here, but he knows if he can get it out quick before it hits the hash, he should be able to get it in there. He certainly does, and the rest is history, because there's no safeties back there.
So the question I have is for Jack. When he sees this, as you say, he identifies the blitz beater. This is the kind of throw where if he's a second late, this is not happening, right?
Yeah, so if you watch his footwork, he's going to catch. He'll catch the football, open, and throw. And it comes out right away. And he could have probably even gotten it out a little bit sooner in that situation, knowing that it was cover zero. And we actually talked about that at halftime, is that if they give you zero again, just catch, rocker, and throw, and it would have got it out a little bit quicker. The other hot route is 87 here. You can see they're two quick releases. We call them blitz beaters. So he could have gone either way. He wouldn't have got a touchdown if he went to the right. He got the touchdown by going to the left.
All right, Coach, our last play here is in the second half. Big 62-yard touchdown to Avery Davis. Again, you got the 4 wide receiver set. Talk me through what you guys looked through on this.
Well, the first thing is, the biggest problem we have is that we're in 63 protection, and we're fanning to George Karlaftis, number 5. He's difficult to block. So we're going to fan the offensive line and add an extra offensive lineman to his side so we can get the ball off, because he's virtually impossible. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, we know we're going to get double coverage here by the safety. And if we double Joe Wilkins, we're going to get one-on-one with Avery, and that's exactly what can happen. There's the double team that you see the center and the guard knock out George Karlaftis, which gives us the chance to throw the football off the double team by the safety. A well-executed play all the way around for a big touchdown.
So we're going to get a second look at it here from this sky cam look, which I think will illustrate what you were talking to. You see Wilkins at the right side of the screen. Just tell me what Jack is looking for. It's really that deep safety that's going to come up that lets him let it go.
Right on the ND. Watch the safety. Once the safety sits his feet down there and does not push to the middle of the field, the ball's coming out of his hands. He knows already that I'm going to throw it. And that timing with the line fanning to George Karlaftis gives us the opportunity to step in the pocket and make the throw.
That does it for this week's edition of Irish Intel. We'll come back with more after this on The Brian Kelly Show, presented by TireRack.com. Welcome back. It's now time for our Look Ahead segment, where we're joined by Bill Reese. And Bill, appreciate you as always taking some time with us this week to look ahead at Wisconsin. Before we do, let's look back at Purdue a little bit. First 2-score win for the Irish. Seemed like they made strides every single week now. Just in general, what'd you see from the team overall? What was your takeaway in the win against the Boilermakers?
Well, I thought in every phase of the game on Saturday, there was a real consistency and intensity on how we played. I think, defensively, we were really sharp, flying around, really doing a great job in red zone defense and limiting big plays and just really getting after the quarterback. Offensively, we started to run the ball with more consistency. They had some explosive plays. And on special teams, did a great job of covering, downing the ball inside the 10 on punts. I think overall in all 3 phases, it was really about consistency and about playing with intensity.
Let's talk about the quarterback a little bit, Jack Cohn. A couple throws maybe in the first half that he usually makes that he didn't, but I talked to Brian Kelly today. He said it wasn't just him. The whole offense had to just get back in sync at halftime. They looked really sharp in the second half, and he hit on a couple of those big throws. How would you assess his performance last week?
Well, I think you really hit it on the head. Sometimes, like a great scorer in basketball, you're going to be a little bit off. Your shot's not going to fall. And I think Jack had some throws that he wished he had back. And, some of it was, some timing issues, receivers getting off of coverage. Cleaner would have helped things a little bit, or the protection could have been a little firmer. So it was a little bit of everything. Sometimes it goes into, a successful pass play.
Another player I wanted to highlight was Kyron Williams. I was talking to Brian Kelly about this as well. It seems like once a week at least, he has one of those big plays that kind of takes your breath away a little bit. It's been a screen pass each of the first 2 weeks, but this past week he had that big 51-yard run, also the nice catch on 4th and 3 for the first touchdown. He just seems to be such a security blanket, and Notre Dame knows they can go to him in big spots.
He's a dynamic playmaker. He's a tremendous competitor, has a great feel for the game. That route that he ran to sneak in between those 2 defenders, they were dropping out a nose tackle, which they had never done before. He adjusted, made the catch, split the 2 defenders, and away he went. And then the long run, it was blocked nice. It was going to be a nice, 5, 6, 7-yard gain. And his will, he was not going to be denied, and he took it to the house. And, one thing that was really impressive, they came up from behind, tried to swat the ball out of his hands, and he hung on and took it to the end zone.
The last guy I want to highlight on offense is someone that I think everyone with the football program really admires the way he's gone through the team, and that's Avery Davis. 5 catches, 120 yards, of course, had the big touchdown. But for someone who's played so many different positions, came in as a quarterback, he's played offense, defense. When he has a game like that, Bill, it just seems like it has to do so much for the entire team to send the message that if you stick this out and go through the program the right way, there's going to be a benefit at the end.
Well, it started for him during the week. Coach Kelly really challenged the leaders of the program, the captains, to step it up in practice. And Avery did exactly that. He had a tremendous week of practice. He, too, is a great competitor. He has big playability in him. He can really separate. His hands have become very reliable, strong runner after the catch. And that's how it's going to be each and every week. Somebody's going to have an opportunity, and it may not always be the same cast of characters. And Avery's a very important part of our offense.
Let's just talk about a couple guys on defense that stuck out to me real quick before we get to Wisconsin. Similar to Kyron, I was talking to Coach Kelly about it. It seems like once a week we just have to budget some time to talk about a Kyle Hamilton play that'll really jump off the screen. That 4th and 1 play where he got the tackle for loss and forced the turnover on downs. I mean, it really seemed like a momentum boost for the team, too, that led to that opening score of the game.
Well, it was a huge play, but very, very few people in football could have made that play. And, Kyle is getting better and better every week, if that is imaginable. He's making plays in so many different ways. That was a tremendously instinctive play. And then his range is second to none, that he could get to that play and make that tackle. Because if he doesn't, the receiver's going to turn the corner and pick up the first down. And now Purdue has the ball and they're going the other way.
Last guy to touch on, and it was a name that people were getting to know in the offseason. I think they now know it really well, and that's J.D. Bertrand. Follows up 11 tackle games in each of the first 2 with 12 against Purdue. I guess just from your vantage point, did you expect him to be this consistent and this productive jumping into this role this early? And just how impressed have you and everyone else there been with him so far?
JD might be as good of a student of the game as there is on the team. He studies, he works. His dedication and his just attention to detail is incredible. He has a great nose for the ball. He's a natural linebacker. Every time he was asked to do something, no matter what the role was, he did it and tried to do it to perfection. One thing that you probably won't see this year was he was working out as a fullback. He was going to be a fullback in short yardage and goal line offense. Now that he's the starter, I don't think the offense is going to see him again.
That's a good nugget. I didn't know that. Let's look ahead at Wisconsin now. I think everybody, when the schedule came out, obviously with last season's game slated for Lambeau Field, it getting canceled, people have been really anticipating this matchup. Obviously, as a coaching staff, Notre Dame couldn't look past the games in front of them. Now that it's here, when you get a chance to play a team like this, just what's the energy like in the Goog right now? What's the feeling like going into a game with such, so much hype and circumstance around it?
Well, it's a great opponent, and it's going to be in a great venue, another Big Ten opponent. And, the players have great respect, as do the coaches, obviously, for Wisconsin. And, this is going to be a great challenge. It's a very physical football team. It's a very well-coached football team. They take great pride in their, ability to play physical football and not make mistakes. They're smart, tough, and well prepared. So, we're going to have our work cut out for us, but people are excited about this week.
Just like Notre Dame, Wisconsin has a very identifiable football brand. When I think of Wisconsin, I think they're going to run the ball and they're going to run it really well. When you've had a chance to look at this Wisconsin team, let's start with offense. Just what jumps out from them? What can Notre Dame fans expect when they see the Badgers at Soldier Field on Saturday?
Well, you're going to see a team that looks a lot like Notre Dame, big physical offensive line. They're an older team. They have a high number of, 4th and 5th and even a few 6-year seniors on their team. So, it really starts with the offensive line, their ability to, move defenders, ability to pull and get get the ball to the outside as well. They have 3 really good running backs that they're featuring. Ches Malusi, who's a grad transfer from Clemson, has stepped in and been their leading rusher. But Jalen Berger started as a freshman. He is back and he's healthy, played 2 weeks ago against Eastern Michigan. So, they really have a nice complement of skilled players to go with that offensive line.
Let's talk about the quarterback. Graham Mertz, of course, young, talented quarterback that they brought in last year, of course, a shortened season, and then they've only played the one game against Penn State and then Eastern last week. They were off last week, or Eastern 2 weeks ago. They were off last week. So there might not be a ton of film on him from his collegiate career with the shortened season. Just what stands out from him in the last season and early portions of this year that you guys will have to be aware of on Saturday?
Well, he has 9 career starts, so there's a fair amount of information that you can see and watch, and they played a good schedule last year, played in a bowl game. He's very talented, very good arm ability, arm talent, mobile, big, throws a really nice football, and he has at times been spectacular. So we're going to have to keep him in check and limit his opportunities to make big plays.
When you look at the defensive side of the ball, again, I think Wisconsin, I think big, burly, going to have good linebackers. I know they have some size up there, specifically front 7. What sticks out from them going into this matchup?
Well, again, they're going to be big and physical up front. They're a 3-4 design defense. Very good down the middle, very good nose tackle, 2 very physical, athletic inside linebackers, and then good athletes on the edge that can rush the passer. And in the back end, very smart. They communicate. They have a very deep and experienced secondary. So it's well coordinated. Jim Leonard, the defensive coordinator, does a great job for them. And again, this will be a challenge to move the ball.
When you look at this matchup on Saturday, Bill, it's 2 iconic programs going up against each other in an iconic venue. I'm just curious, does that discussion go on at all in the building about what it means to be in an environment like this? Or is it tunnel vision, blinders on? It's just another opponent right in front of us.
It's really more the tunnel vision. It's let's get the game plan ready. Let's get the players ready. Let's get them focused in on what they have to do. They'll see the stadium on Friday when they go out there for a walkthrough. And then I'm sure it'll start to hit, the majority of the players and everyone else. Hey, we're playing in Soldier Field. We're playing in Chicago, and this is going to be a special matchup.
As you look forward, I'll just get this one last note from you. For Notre Dame, I think every week it's gotten a little bit better, specifically on the defensive side of the ball, right? We saw the 38 points, then down to 32, and then just 13 last week. It seems like everybody's getting a little bit more acclimated in Marcus Freeman's system. What has maybe been the thing you've seen? It's been the biggest improvement in the defense that they can also then carry to Soldier Field on Saturday against the Badgers?
Again, I think it's just, a consistency. I think there's a little bit more of an understanding of how this defense fits together, and players now can communicate within it. But they just, as each game has gone on, they become more and more consistent. And I just think more and more comfortable with the defense and the defenses that are being called.
Well, Bill, as always, we appreciate you taking some time to shed some light on the upcoming opponent. I know everybody has been looking forward to this game for quite some time. We're excited to take it in. Appreciate you taking the time today, and we'll talk to you next week.
Look forward to it. Thanks, Tony.
Welcome back to the Brian Kelly Show, presented by TireRack.com. It's now time for this week's edition of Irishography. So, Kurt, you guys are 3 weeks into the season, 3-0 now. Defense seems to be getting better every single week under Marcus Freeman now. What's maybe the biggest thing you guys have seen? You made the adjustments to get even better every week into the season.
At the beginning of the season, the defense we have in is we play very fast and very free. And with that comes, holes and room for error, right? What we found to be our success last game, when we could find the blend to play detail-oriented football and play it fast and free at the same time, is when we'll be very successful. And I think we started to come along and play within the confines of our defense this weekend, and we saw the results.
So Kurt, you got the game ball this week, and Coach Kelly said it was your leadership during the week that helped the team prepare. What did you do to help the team get ready for Purdue?
One of the things that I focused on this week was that making sure our locker room was clean. Remember watching a documentary about the All Blacks, the rugby team in New Zealand, and one of the main things that they said to help them be so successful was having everything neat and being detailed, because the small details lead to the larger details. And if you're detail-oriented in the locker room, then it's going to translate out onto the field. And a lot of people skip over that fact. So one of the things that I challenged the team earlier in the week was, let's clean up the locker room, let's clean up the lounge, right? So that these details will carry on from the facility onto the field.
When you get the game ball, you get to do the alma mater up there in the locker room at the end, and the fight song. What does it feel like when you have it in front of your team?
It was kind of weird at first, standing up there on the stool. First off, I was praying the stool didn't give out and break because I don't know how many people have stood on that thing and how adorable it was, first off. Second of all, it was awesome. And the fight song, it sounded the best that I've ever heard it. Coach Kelly challenged us earlier in the week to learn the fight song because some of the guys were just mumbling the words and not really knowing it. But it actually sounded the best that it sounded since I've been here for a long time. But it was just an honor to be standing up there in front of everyone and singing the alma mater's always been a dream of mine to do, and to see everyone else before me do it, it's a tremendous honor.
What's maybe the biggest impact it has had on you in your time here when you look back?
You know, kind of coming into my own and kind of coming into a man, because when you come to this place, you're a boy, right? And even though you are 18 years old and you come in here, I was 17 when I came here, but you're a boy, and you come out of here a man. And you kind of come into your own and you kind of find yourself and kind of find out the person that you're going to be for the rest of your life.
Next week, really exciting game, obviously, against Wisconsin in an NFL stadium at Soldier Field. What are you looking forward to most in that environment?
I've never been to Soldier Field, so first off, I'm really excited to go there. It's going to be really cool to play in front of 65,000 people and play in front of a huge crowd. And not that I haven't done that before, but I've never played Wisconsin, and the reputation they have for having big, mean, nasty offensive linemen. I'm excited to play against them and see what I can do.
Kurt, thanks for the time. Best of luck.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome back to the Brian Kelly Show, presented by TireRack.com. It's now time for this week's final check-in.
Hi, Brian. I wonder if you could bring us up to date with the health of your two deep, and also my question for you is your concerns heading into Saturday's game and going up against the Wisconsin defense. Thank you.
Sure. Too deep. The only guy we haven't made a decision yet on is Mike Carmody. We got a chance to get some reps yesterday. We'll need to evaluate him today and tomorrow. So I would say that's going to come down to game day decision, making good progress, but too early to tell, whether we'll start Tosh or Mike there. I don't think there's anybody else on the two deep that we have a particular concern on at this point. Wisconsin's a outstanding football team. I mean, they played for championships. They're consistent. They're physical. They're smart. I said this on Monday. I'll say it again. They play to their traits, and we'll have to do the same. I mean, look, they beat more talented teams because their sum is greater than their parts, and that is a testament to who they are, how they're coached, playing to a system, and that's why they beat a lot of people. So we'll have to do the same, and we'll have to get them off the field. They possess the football through a very powerful running game, and we're going to have to make big plays, and they limit that. So great challenge. Concerns, yeah, you're concerned about everything, but this is really just a great challenge for our football team.
Tim Priester, you're up next.
Brian, there's been some speculation about Kurt Hinish's health, if you could address that. And then secondly, the matchup, it's a pretty interesting matchup, Jarrett Patterson against Keanu Benton, their nose tackle. Just what you're expecting from that battle and what the role of the offensive guards, the role that they must play when facing a two gap nose tackle like Benton.
Yeah, there's always going to be guys that are questionable during the week that have lingering injuries from the week before, but we don't rule anybody out unless we're clear that they are not going to play. So, yeah, as I said to John, I mean, I think the only guy right now that clearly is not playing is the guys that we told you that were unavailable earlier in the week. Other than that, some of these are game time decisions. So I think each week you'll find that there's going to be some rumors and there's going to be some speculation as to some guys may be available or unavailable. I'll let you guys know if there's somebody definitely not available, leading into the game. But I think there's always going to be a little bit of that from week to week. As it relates to the nose, yeah, I mean, he's, as you know, they're a 3-down, 4-down team. 3-down predominantly when it's a 2 tight end. And they get to 4-down primarily in 11, Tim. So, Benton's a single gap player in 11. He plays a lot of 2-gap when they're in 12 personnel, but he's big, physical. He's hard to move. You're absolutely right. Yeah, he's a challenge. There's no doubt about it. And so, Jared going up against him, and he's gone against some outstanding noses in the past. This guy will rate up there as a 2-year starter with excellent size, and a guy that's going to be hard to move. We, obviously understand that we're going to have to be able to, control him and get 4 hands on him to have an effective running game.
Eric Hansen, you're up next.
Hey, Brian. First part of my question is, what kind of practice week did Kevin Austin have this week? What did he take away from the Purdue experience? And then also, if you could maybe just highlight what kind of week in practice Buckner and Botello had for you.
Yeah, Kevin works as hard as anybody that we have, in our program. His work volume is always as high, if not the highest of anybody that we had. He probably didn't play up to his standards. I don't know that anybody needed to remind him of that. He's a guy with a lot of pride and wants to perform at the highest level. So you can imagine, I think everybody that follows Notre Dame football can imagine that, he didn't play to the level that he has set for himself. And he went back to work and practiced real hard and prepared real hard with that in mind, that he wants to make an impact in this game. I think Jordan's much further along than he was last week. Just getting back on the practice field, didn't really have his legs out underneath him last week. He should play a much more, I would say, important role in what we do defensively. You'll see him on the field. He will register many more snaps on the defensive side of the ball. Buckner's improving. We got him up to about, his miles per hour in terms of full out sprint yesterday was where we wanted it to be. We'll add more to his load with the expectation of preparing him for his role at quarterback on Saturday.
Pete Sampson, you're up next.
Brian, this is another Buckner question. And it was sort of related to it was a 3rd and 2 play last week. It was the play before Jack Cohn hit Carter Knowles for the touchdown. It was an RPO. He handed it to Tyree for a 1-yard loss. The box was sort of stacked. And to his left, there was sort of like 2 receivers with 1 DB. So I was just interested, is that sort of a good teaching moment for a young player who hasn't really done it yet? And how quickly can a freshman quarterback process those kind of moments and make those kind of RPO decisions?
Yeah, so that's a box read for him that we feel like he's capable of doing that. We were in a tempo play, and those tempo plays are set up for a quick read, and if the box has more defenders than we have blockers, then there's an opportunity on the perimeter for us to be in favorable numbers. And it's just processing, because if you slowed it down for him, he knows exactly where the ball should go. So teaching moment, yes. But the game, right? The game speed. In practice, he hit that every time. But when you go into a game, it's the processing. So that's why every time you get an opportunity to get game reps, they matter. And so the long and short of it is yes. And answering the question, great teaching moment for Tyler in that situation.
For anybody, here we go. Tim O'Malley, you are up next.
Coach, you mentioned that Wisconsin, you compliment them for playing to their traits, and you have to do the same. I think we kind of feel like the approach or traits have changed. Have you had to tweak your traits at all as an offense and defense in this new season? Or are you talking more along the lines of just what you bring to the practice week and what you bring to the field mentally?
Yeah, Tim, let's not confuse that we need to, regardless of whether we run the ball 70 times or throw it 70, our attention to detail, our focus, playing with grit, great attitude and being smart, that will never change. And what I was saying is that Wisconsin does that, and their systems don't change. We'll change with personnel relative to who we need to be from an offensive standpoint, and we have defensively. But our process and how we play and what we need to do on a day-to-day basis, those traits won't change. And so if we keep those consistent and then let our players play, we'll be pretty good. But that's a process for us. I mean, it's hard, and we've got some young players that are learning how to do that on the fly. They're getting better at it, but we're certainly not a finished product when it comes to that.
Welcome back to the Brian Kelly Show, presented by TireRack.com. It's now time for this week's Look Ahead, where we highlight Notre Dame's upcoming opponent. Coach, I think everyone's had this game circled on the calendar against Wisconsin. Now that it's here, what's going through your head as you prepare for Wisconsin?
Well, nationally ranked football team, one that's always at the top of the Big Ten, well coached. Paul Chris does a great job, and he's consistent in his approach. This is a physical football team. As I mentioned, well coached, smart. Jim Leonard, their defensive coordinator, one of the best in the country. So you know what you're going to get. Ball control, physicality at the point of the attack, an outstanding quarterback, young, athletic, that can throw the ball. And then defensively, big, physical. When you talk about Wisconsin football, we better buckle up the chin straps. And there's no better place to be but to be at Soldier Field and in Chicago for a Shamrock Series game.
As you get set for a big matchup like this, then what do you tell your team throughout the week to prepare them for the bright lights?
Yeah, I mean, you have to match the opposition with what they're going to give you, and that is fundamentally sound. So trust your teaching, trust your coaching. There has to be intensity and physicality to the game, and then you got to go make plays. There's going to be a few plays that are going to separate these two teams, and that guy that makes a couple of plays is probably going to be the difference in this game.
Coach, as always, thanks for the time. We'll talk to you after Wisconsin.
My pleasure. Thank you.
You have been listening to The Brian Kelly Show, presented by the experts at TireRack.com.